Come on and wake up. Listen to your heart now.
And that when you're arguing with someone, a lot of times they're not really arguing with you. They're arguing with someone from their past, and you're like, why are you saying this to me? It's crazy, right? It's because they're reliving an old story slapped onto your face and vice versa. So this is not crazy. It's not a crazy thing. It's what our minds, our brains, our subconscious has us do so we can bring stuff up and clear it and make up new stories about it. We can make up new identities. We can decide something different because we're not powerless anymore. But I understand that I act this way with people because I felt powerless back then, or whatever it was I felt, fearful or whatever it is. And I get that that's not who you are. I get that that's just what I'm pasting on your face. All right, and that's why a person who does not get conscious with whatever relationship they're in is going to repeat it with another and another and another, and then they keep repeating it because something inside them needs to rectify it. Something inside them needs to get over it. Something inside them needs to identify themselves new, not from that old experience they had, where they're not placing themselves in this particular role in a relationship that's not serving them. So they have to keep replaying it until they figure it out. And they say, look, I keep choosing the same person. Why? What is it I'm needing right here with this person? Okay, now, here is the confusing thing about this, is that I'm not going to pick a person who's like a therapist, who's just this blank slate. I'm going to pick somebody who already has their stuff going on. Okay, and I'm going to pick someone, I'm going to say it in a certain way and then I'll clarify. I'm going to pick someone who's willing to play that role of my dad or my brother or my sister or whatever. I'm going to pick someone who already has some kind of quality that reminds me of it, and that's what causes the chemistry in me that attracts me to them. I'm like, ooh, here's my opportunity to fix this in myself. Here's this person I'm going to clear this out with. The thing is, that's going to be a person who's similar to that other person. That's why they were familiar to you. So when you paste stuff on them, it's going to be difficult for them to separate themselves from it and to say, look, you're talking about somebody else, because they're giving you evidence that they're the same as the other person. They act the same, and you're fighting it, and you're saying, you know, you shouldn't be this way, and you're trying to change them because you're trying to change that story from your past, and you change yourself. And so you're doing it with this person who's very similar to the person who did it to you in the first place, or who you had that experience with in the first place. So sometimes you just get caught in that, and it tends to just deepen that feeling that I'm not good enough, or I'm powerless, or I have to do things for other people, or whatever the story was, whatever the script, the role I made up based on the past experience. Sometimes the relationship we pick because we want to rectify it and get past it is a very relationship that solidifies it for us and says, I guess I really am this. I guess this is all I deserve. I guess this is who I am. Okay, so now let's go back to the therapist. So, if the therapist is skillful, they might just blank out and let you do that until you get to a place where you can look at it and bring it up and think about it and realize what it reminds you of, so you can talk about it and see yourself anew and frame yourself new and script yourself new and give yourself a new identity, not based on that old thing that happened to you. Because that is the intention you've been wanting to do, why you got with this person in the first place, or why you got with this therapist in the first place. Because your intention is to get out of that old story and to start living in a new way. But you got to get conscious. You got to bring it to your conscious mind so your conscious mind can look at it and say, look, this is not who I am. It's just where I was. So I don't want to be this anymore. I don't want to play this role anymore. I don't want to choose people like this anymore. But what most people do is they say it's all about the other person. You're just like my dad, you're just like my sister, you're just like my brother. And so they're pointing out on the other person when really what they need to rectify is back there. And so they're going through relationship after relationship after relationship looking to change the other person, when actually what they need to do is recognize that they're choosing people that are similar to their past, not because it's who they are, but it's because they want to get out of that old story. So if you can recognize it, bring it to your conscious mind and say, based on these videos that I had before, the difference between truth and experience of you, if I can really, really get that, then what I can do is say, wait a minute, I'm the one playing this role. I'm the one who's handing out the script. I'm the one who's a casting director to all these people that I'm inviting into my life, giving permission to play this role out with me over and over and over and over. And if I'm the one who's doing it, if I can get conscious of it, I'm the one who can change it. I can stop doing that. If I realize that that was an experience but not the truth of me, I can redefine the experience that I want to have in my life and start a new story. Okay, now, let's go back to the therapist. So, the therapist is smart. He blanks out and lets you do that until it comes conscious, and then you talk about it, and then you create something new. Wow, brilliant, right? But if the therapist is not that good, then he's going to argue with you about what you're putting on him. He's going to say, that's not who I am. That's someone from your past. That's something else that happened. And then you're not going to have the ability to bring it up enough to really see it and talk about it, to understand that it's not about this person. Or another thing the therapist can do is create countertransference. So it's possible that you might remind the therapist of someone from their life, and then they're going to paste that face on you and say they're going to be bugged by you because you remind them of their mother. You remind them of some person in their past. So that's countertransference. That's when that person is doing it back on you. Okay, so now if you take it out of the therapist and you say two people in a relationship, so one person is transferring their past experience onto the person in front of them, and the other person is transferring their experience on the person in front of them, which is you, which we do. I mean, that causes chemistry. Like you saw something in them that reminded you of something from your past, and they saw something in you that reminded them of something from their past. So you're both pasting past experience on each other's face. And you don't know why this isn't working because you can't see each other. You're only seeing the past pasted onto the person in front of you. Okay, so there's a possibility that a bad therapist will paste stuff onto you and have countertransference coming at you. It's all just transference, right? We're doing it to each other all the time. All right, so with the therapist, it's possible, there's one other thing that can happen. All right. The therapist, as you're transferring your stuff pasting it onto the face of the therapist and seeing them as your father, your mother, your brother, your sister, whoever it is, something from the past, or somebody that did something to you that you need to empower yourself out of that story because of that happened. I'm now this. You need to change that story. The therapist might also, at the same time you're transferring your stuff onto them, it's like what you're doing, that transference is like a request for them to play a particular role for you so you can replay it and have a different outcome. So it's a request for a replay. It's like, it happened back there, it's like you're pressing replay, like a basketball thing happened in basketball, and they press and they replay it, and then you get to look at it closer and say, well, did the ball actually hit the line? Did it go out? Was that person actually fouled? So this is what you're doing. You're replaying that old scene right here with someone else's face on it. You're pasting that old scene onto someone else's face. Well, something the therapist can do is while you're doing that, they can notice what's happening inside their own body. What is it I'm feeling right now? What is it I feel, how is it I feel pulled to respond to this person in front of me? What does it seem like they're requesting me to be for them? Right? Because your original request, when you paste the past event onto someone else, your original request is you want them to play the role of the other person so you can have a different outcome, so you can stand up for yourself or speak up for yourself or say something. That's why sometimes in therapies they have you punch pillows or say you're talking to your dad. What do you really want to say to him? What would you like him to hear from you, right? That's so you can have an experience of yourself as powerful, or an experience of yourself as being over that, or some new experience that wasn't the one you had when you were a child, when you felt like you were either powerless or you didn't get your needs met, okay? So you can have a new experience where you get your needs met, okay? So the therapist is going to notice what experience they're having. And by that experience the therapist is feeling inside themselves, in their mind they're going to say, this is probably the experience that other people in your life are having, because you're pasting your past onto other people in your life and you're asking them to play a role. And so the therapist might say in his own mind that I am now having an experience that a lot of other people in your life probably have with you too. You're probably bringing out whatever feeling I'm feeling in the other people in your life. Let's say there is somebody who is just complaining